And so, there we go. I need to flip the Instagram. So happy Friday. I'm still going to choose to say that it is a happy Friday despite the challenges that we are undergoing as a city. And the sun is shining and there's still some good things going on. So just wanted to do that. So I want to talk about the water situation to try to give a bit of context and understanding to the challenges that we're facing, why we're saying we're at risk at running out of water. What does that actually mean? How does the water service system work? What it is that we can do, and just some of the frequent questions that are coming up. I also want to talk about Federation of Canadian Municipalities. So that's a conference that's happening here in Calgary this week. We have 3,100 delegates from across the country. So let's talk about water first. And for those who are doing water restrictions, we really appreciate the work that you're doing. We can't stress enough how important this is. And the decisions that we make today are going to impact us all summer. Because if we are reducing our water consumption right now, right now, the majority of the water is going to be getting pulled and diverted out of the Glenmore Reservoir, which serves generally the south of the city. We have 2 reservoirs, 2 water treatment plants. But if we can reduce water consumption now, it will save us for the long run in the summer. And so we want to make sure about that. So let's talk about diversion and treatment and why we're at risk of running out of water. We can only put so much water through the water treatment plant, and being down to 1 water treatment plant that's having to now service the entire city plus Airdrie plus other outside municipalities, and reduced water treatment happening out of Bearspaw, which is going through smaller pipes to some of those areas. So we're just sort of limited to how much water we can transfer through those stations at any given time and having to divert. That is why we're at risk at running out of water. So it's less about how much has come off the mountains and is being stored in the reservoir, but it's about how much is coming out, the availability of how quick it can come out and through the pipes into homes and businesses. And so we're asking everyone to make good decisions. So there's a lot of questions about, why aren't businesses closed? We know that businesses need to stay operational. And so it's that tricky balance that we hold where, we want someone like a hair salon to still be able to offer services so that they can make money. Maybe, understanding maybe some clients who need multiple washes, like a hair color. So I just got asked this question, could get, pushed back a week or so until we can get the problem solved. Car washes, we can't, unless we enter a state of local emergency, we can't actually shut businesses down. So we're relying on Calgarians to make good decisions about their water use and their water consumption. Do you need to wash your car right now? And you know what? We are trying to give people some autonomy and some decision-making power, but it's going to become very tricky. And what we don't want to end up in is a state of local emergency. So we're asking everyone to do their part. So I've had lots of questions and some interesting comments. Did we plan this? No. How come we didn't fix this before? We didn't have a known problem before. Underground utilities, you don't actually know you have a problem until you have a problem. You just don't know. That's how utilities work. And in a freeze-thaw cycle, it is unfortunate that things break. When we talk about the size of this feeder main, it's 11 kilometers long. You can drive a car through it. It is one of the big ones. It's one of the big ones, which is why as we're moving water through smaller pipes, it just takes that little bit longer. So, and again, servicing Calgary, servicing Airdrie, servicing over 1 million people out of this water. So those are the challenges that we're facing. So how do you reduce reuse? Well, someone said, well, if you boil pasta water, what else could you possibly do with it? Well, first, how do we reduce? Let's try to cook some foods that don't require water. You know what? My dog would love pasta water. And I think about camping, and I have washed dishes in pasta cooked water before. So urban camping friends, this is where we're at. And I would also say this, please don't go hoard water from the stores. There are people who are going to need it for lots of things. Let's all share. So that's a bit of an update on the water system. If you have creative ways that you're reducing your water, share them out through your own socials. Talk about what you're doing. This is an idea. We're collaborative efforts, sharing ideas, working together. A sense of community is really critical and really important. So for those doing their part, we super duper appreciate you. Please, updates are coming out of the city newsroom. We have a dedicated webpage for it, so please follow along. And we hope that you can do your part, and we hope we don't have to end up in a state of local emergency where we could be doing, yeah, even rolling water restrictions. So, and you know what? It's not too warm out. Cooler weather is good. And so that's good for our plants. I know we all want our plants to grow nicely, but if we don't want water restrictions later, we need to restrict water now. That's really kind of the underlying message of where we're at. So, and I was going to touch on kind of like some of the conspiracy theories that are going around this. We're just going to leave it. We're just going to leave it. Okay. I want to pivot because there's lots of information about water. I want to pivot and talk about Federation of Canadian Municipalities. This is a national conference that happens every single year, and this year it happens to be in Calgary. And so, to my colleagues from across the country here, welcome, bienvenue. It's really great to have our city on display. Some of the tours that are happening today are the water treatment plants. And all the other places. So this is great. This is great. You know what? We have an amazing emergency operations center. They are going full tilt. They are working on very, very little sleep. And we have some amazing administrators who are proactively, who have proactively thought about how we manage this and who are actively managing this. And they are experts in their job and they're doing a really good job at that. And so in some ways, we get to show off how great we are at emergency preparedness here in Calgary to our colleagues from across the country. So we'll just take that as a small win. We'll take it as a small win. But I want to talk about the discussions that we're having across the country. And so the biggest thing is helping cities be future ready. And so what does it mean to be a future ready city? Well, future ready cities understand that there are going to be growing populations in cities. We know this, and that those population growth and the numbers of growth are going to be higher than we've ever seen. And that's not just because of immigration, right? Immigration is going to drive a lot of things, but it is also just about how people are moving from more rural environments to more urban environments. And we're not even talking about urban environments like Calgary. We're even thinking, if I look at Alberta centers like Red Deer, Medicine Hat, or Grand Prairie is a really fast growing city. And so it's even some of our smaller municipalities. And those smaller municipalities, they also need infrastructure funding. And they need growth funding, and they need it for housing, and they need it for infrastructure. And infrastructure is everything from pipes in the ground to roads and libraries and schools. And so it is really about the transfer of dollars that we have here in the city or here in this country to municipalities and understanding the growth pressures specifically that municipalities are facing. And it is really about the cooperative environment that we need to work in, and really about and really about creating a framework that allows cities to plan for growth and proactively plan for growth rather than reactively planning for growth. And so when we think about things like proactively planning for growth, it is things like replacing aging infrastructure. And aging infrastructure can be everything, again, from libraries to water mains, which we do proactively replace, usually are smaller ones, sidewalks and roadways, lights, all of these things. And we need funding from our federal partners, and we need our funding from our provincial partners, and we need our provincial partners and our federal partners to understand that they can't get in each other's way, and they need to cooperate on that. And not always easy, but super critical and important. So the need for stable funding. Also, the criticality that municipal leaders know their municipalities best. And so that's one size funding doesn't fit all. Stable, predictable funding helps us plan and prepare for the future. And that we're actually really aware of the local challenges and local issues. And so that our advocacy and our voices do matter. And so rather than programs being developed top down, that we help develop programs collaboratively. So it's not even necessarily about a bottom up. It's about just being at the table, before decisions are made and as decisions are being thought out. And so that's part of it. And that's what Federation of Canadian Municipalities does a great job. They do advocacy across the country on the behalf of municipalities. We have a representative from City of Calgary who sits on Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Councillor Walcott sits on that. And then Mayor Jyoti Gondek obviously sits on the Big City Mayor's Caucus. And so those are really important conversations that are happening at the national stage to understand the challenges that municipalities are facing closest to governments, or closest to the people as the closest government to people. And so I really appreciate that I have a chance to talk with and share and learn from my colleagues this weekend, and to hear from them. So I've already met up with some people and had some good conversations. And of course, we're also hearing from federal ministers having conversations about this as well, and the work that they're wanting to do, and then where we push back and say, that doesn't actually work for cities. So, Scott Aitchison, I think he's been a decent critic for housing, but essentially came and spoke today and laid the blame at the cost of housing increases on municipalities and how much we charge builders to build homes. And I would say that in absence of funding from provincial or federal governments to operate or to build infrastructure, we have two choices. We can either charge those levies to the homes that are getting built, or we can tax existing homeowners, or tax existing properties to build new properties. And it's often a balance of those both, but this is why we're actually advocating for better funding dollars for infrastructure, so we can reduce the cost of those levies on new builds, and keep taxes low on existing homeowners to not have to pay for new infrastructure. So this is the balanced conversation that we're attempting to strike, and to show that all the nuances and complexities that go into city building. And so there's that. So that's for Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Really quickly, I just want to talk about a few other things that are upcoming this month, some cool things that are going on. Tomorrow, Saturday, I would encourage everyone to go down and go to the public opening of the BMO Center on Stampede Park. It is stunning. It is we are so lucky to have another showstopper piece here in our city. It is filled full of local talented artists, and I actually see one of them is watching right now. The artwork in there is absolutely stunning, and it is such a mix, everything from sculpture to paintings, Indigenous beadwork. It is almost a museum and a gallery unto itself of artwork, and it is so beautiful. It feels so warm. So I would encourage everyone to go check it out this weekend and go to that public opening and just spend some time in there. It is very large, but it feels so comfortable at the same time. And so I'm so proud to be opening these show-stopping pieces here in our city, in places that it'll quite literally welcome the world. So one of the biggest conferences is coming to BMO next year, and it's Rotary International. So Rotary was just in Singapore. We sent a delegation to Singapore as part of that. There are already 11,000 people signed up to come to Rotary International next year here in Calgary at the BMO. And that is almost already 40% of registrations. And that has exceeded any advanced registration of anything that Rotary has done. And so people are very excited to come to Calgary. And people are very excited to come see this new center. And it's the world on, it is Calgary on stage to the world. And so we're so very lucky to have that. So do go check it out. And again, it starts to build out that culture and entertainment district. And so lots of things happening there. And it really speaks to the power of, again, collaboration. So between Stampede, Calgary Municipal Land Corporation, City of Calgary, province, and the federal government, all invested in this, and BMO, of course, as a sponsor partner. And so really it is, when we talk about working together and setting our sights for big visions, that we can do big things. We have the capacity to do big things, and it brings us a return. We call them an investment for a reason. And so when we think about other projects that are sort of in line, whether it is Green Line, whether it is the event center, whether it's Arts Commons transformation, Glenbow, and whether Field House is sort of on the docket. These are all transformational projects that are really critical to our city, and they do take investment, and they take time, and they take a lot of creative work, but they really help us grow and stay as a world-class city, because we are a world-class city, but we are only going to stay as a world-class city and attract competitive talent and conferences and businesses and future investments into the private sector if we can offer that public environment that supports it. Those two pieces always go hand in hand, So It's a very cool time to be part of a transformative city. It's a very scary time. It's a very financially risky time to be part of a transformative city, but it's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it. So, a minute left. I will remind you all if you join late, please reduce your water consumption. Please reuse water when and where possible. And just think of it as urban camping. I'm just saying, think of it as urban camping. If it's yellow, let it mellow. You know what to do, Calgary, and we can do this together. And it really takes the lift of the whole community. Get outside, enjoy the beautiful sunshine this weekend. There's still lots of great wildflowers out there in all of our naturalized spaces. So please go check those out as well. All the best, everyone.